Welcome to the show, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. I'm here with Brian Burr.
Hello.
We're talking about money today. We got a webinar today.
We do.
Do we send that? We don't send that out on our big email blast, do we?
Which one? The 1 o'clock one?
Yeah, the 1 o'clock webinar.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
This is the passive investing webinar. If you guys are interested in doing passive investing, shoot Brian a text. He'll send you a link.
Yep.
What's your number? I always forget what it is.
Cell phone number? Yeah. You forgot my number?
I don't know your. Honestly, I don't know your number. I know mine.
We realized Jason has been spelling my name wrong for the last, what?
No, that was just that one email I sent.
Okay, good. But my cell phone number is 713-620-8148. 713-620-8148.
Excellent. So if you want to be on that webinar, just text him. It's at 1 o'clock. We do it every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday.
Passive Investor Wednesday.
Yep, yeah. I sacrifice lunch. I don't even take lunch because I'm waiting for the investors
It's awful, man.
That's what we do.
The commitment you're making to other people's wealth around here is not going unnoticed.
That's right. My interim, what do they call it? Interim fasting goes now. I don't eat till like 3.
Yeah, yeah. There we go.
On Wednesdays.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, this is part of my new diet plan. I'm just going to sacrifice for you. So, and of course, we had a very productive lunch yesterday.
Yeah.
So
a lot of good ideas out of it.
No, got a lot of good ideas.
Other people would look at it and be like, those guys are wasting time. But I think those are the best ideas come out of those meetings.
Well, so I had a very interesting conversation with somebody yesterday, and I said, I worked for a guy for 15 years that he basically would sit around the room and say, all right, guys, give me your craziest ideas. But he never did it like, let's be in the conference room at 8 a.m. and you guys give me your best ideas. That doesn't really work. It was always happy hours and little parties, and everybody'd start talking about work, and then it's like, well, I got this really crazy idea now that I'm 4 beers in. So let me tell you what that crazy idea is. So that's that, and I was like, we gotta start doing that here, right? It's like the partners, we do that, but we really need to start doing some of that stuff with the staff.
Yeah.
Because as you said, like we've got Zia's doing our marketing right now. We have 50 people signed up for our mastermind preview next week.
Yeah.
It's not even this week, it's next week. So if you guys are interested in any of that stuff, just go to mrtxre.com and you can sign up for our email list. I need to send an email out about yesterday's show, and I'll send one out tomorrow about this one. But making money.
Hey, Wednesdays are always about making money.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the market's taking a dip today, but no big deal.
Oh, is it? I haven't noticed.
It's getting beat pretty hard today.
Oh, is it? I wonder what's going on.
It'll be up tomorrow. Who knows?
Who cares? I'm just like, who cares?
Right.
I've been going. So last night, I was a texting fool. Texting and Facebook messaging, it was coming in like every 30 seconds. Guys sending me stuff about Bitcoin, about EXP stock, about passive investing. So I don't know what was going on last night, but I swear when I got home, and I guess it was 5:36, like it just literally for like 4 or 5 hours just didn't stop with the number of people that were. It wasn't emails. It was just all social media stuff and people just texting me.
Yeah.
So I don't know what was going on yesterday. Just everybody got a wild hair after Bitcoin hit an all-time high. Tesla announced in their 10Qs that, or was it 10K? Anyways, whatever their quarterly report is, they announced that they bought a bunch of Bitcoin, which kind of makes sense for what they're doing. And then everyone was like, oh, let's go buy Bitcoin. Jason, why aren't you? And then I'm getting like blown up with guys. They're like, why aren't you investing in Bitcoin? And I'm like, well, guys, I don't tell you everything I'm invested in. I'll just tell you that right now on the show. But from a wealth standpoint, vast majority of it's in real estate.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like you posted that thing yesterday showing that 0.2% of Tesla's overall net worth.
Yeah, let's look at Tesla's net worth. It's like 800 something billion.
Yeah.
And they bought 1.5 billion in Bitcoin. Like,
right.
Okay, can you go invest less than 1% of your net worth in something? Sure.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
I mean, my guess is, if you're worth $10 million, we're talking about $10,000. I mean, it's like such a small number. Like, who cares?
No. I've never really gotten into the crypto thing. I know Bitcoin is going to be around. It's here to stay. But there's so many damn crypto currencies.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I'm going to wait till one of them just hangs around and then everybody bets against the dollar and maybe I start buying it then. I don't know.
Here's I think the problem is when you really get down to Bitcoin, it's not a currency, it's a technology, right? It's a technology trying to replace or trying to become a currency, which you sit there and you kind of wrap your mind around that. You're like, okay, so let's call it a technology. Well, the first to market is not always the biggest. I mean, Google was not the first search engine.
Yeah.
A whole lot before that. iTunes was not the first music service. So you've got to kind of figure out at some point, okay, well, what's the one that's going to supplant everything else? Mm-hmm. And if you look at it like, I think what's so silly about the whole Bitcoin thing is it's a digital payment system, right? But like we can go to the bar and you can Venmo me right there.
Right.
So I'm like, why do I need this? Or I can PayPal, or I can do Venmo's like super easy because it's all text based, right? So it's like, or phone number based. So it's like, why do we need this additional thing? And really, it's just, I don't know. I'm still lost in the utility of the whole thing.
See, like, it's funny because, you know, I'm on the whole conspiracy theory that one day the dollar will be, you know, something will happen to it. It's probably wrong.
Sure.
It's probably wrong for all the viewers. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
That's my claim. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
But like, so I started buying, like I got a Coinbase account, and then like I have that, like it's an incremental purchase of the Bitcoin. And but it's like, you know, since the price is $42,000, I think dollars right now, that anytime you make a purchase of it, it's like you get this percentage.
It's like 0.00001% or something like that. Yeah.
And I don't even know how to transact it. So like basically it looks like it's accumulating in an account, but I don't know how to like sell it, buy it. I can't go to buy a Subway sandwich with it.
Right, yeah.
I don't, you know, but I'm just doing it because
why not? Who cares? Yeah, but it's not a significant portion of your net worth, right? It's like, we'll just buy it and kind of move on. I have a buddy of mine that buys he does services consulting like we do, and he gives folks a 25% discount if they pay for a service in Bitcoin. And I thought, okay, that actually kind of makes sense.
Right.
Like I could see us doing something like that where, hey, if you want to sign up for one of our classes or a mastermind, would we do a 20 or 25% discount to pay in Bitcoin? I could see making a strong argument for us doing that. But as far as us converting our capital, our cash to that doesn't make any sense, right? It's kind of like when I have the EXP stock discussion. It's like, would I go out there and buy some? Sure, I'll go out there and buy some. But the reality is I'd much rather work for the asset, like, you know, and bring it in that way than I would just converting things I'm doing now into something else.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the wealth over the course of just like mankind has been in land, gold, silver, for the most part, maybe some rubies, gems, I don't know now, you know, but for the most part, land, which is what we're going to be doing now until the end of time.
Right.
It's safe.
Well, if you look at the other way I like to look at it too is what passes on after you die. Like what do they really get? What do the trustees, what do the heirs really get out of this thing? They get land, jewelry, firearms, and typically cash. So what that tells me is what actually survives, you know, that generational handoff, if you will, to the heirs. And so it makes sense to me. Like those are the things that typically I'd invest in, right? Yeah. Not jewelry. I guess you put precious metals in there too, but that's really what kind of passes from one generation to the next. Yeah. And you know, one thing you and I have talked about too. I'm looking at the whole ranch play. I think that's you know, we got to buy this place in Vegas. So I think that's a 2023, 2022 thing. I really want to buy a ranch here in the next year or so. It seems to be like the real estate guy thing. You know, you get to a certain point, everybody needs a ranch. But within an hour of Houston, guys, I don't want to go any further than that. So, but in any case, so passive investing. Let's get back to that.
The whole subject. Usually we like to warm up into the subject.
Yeah, that's right. We're nestling up to it right now. We're
Segment just 2 is usually when we get into the whatever.
So let's see. Is the fund still open, or are we completely closed on the fund?
I think we have another $50,000 to raise before it's capped.
Okay.
And we buy what we need to buy.
So let's talk about what we got in the fund. The fund is we have a SEC registered fund.
Right. We can talk about it openly.
We talk about it openly. Right. We can raise money legally. Is probably a good way to put it. Right. So we've got a fund that focuses on single family real estate here in South Texas. We pay a 9% preferred return, and then whenever we sell a property, 10% equity in that property goes back to the investors.
Right. Yep.
So at the end of the day, 12 to 13, 14% rate of return every year. Yeah. So not a bad little deal there.
Yep.
Completely passive. It's diversified amongst a ton of assets here in Houston and in Corpus Christi.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good deal. All right, we get back from a break. We'll talk more with Brian Burr about passive investing. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Welcome back, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. I'm here with Brian Burr. We're talking about passive investing.
It's the best.
Putting that money to work. We got guys coming. We got families and guys and gals coming in. It seems like every week with piles of cash, putting them into syndications and funds and all that other stuff.
I, honestly, like people that I talk to on the phone, there's a group that like to complicate their lives with, say they're like, I'm kind of on the edge of retirement, right? Mm-hmm. They're like, I want to go flip a couple of houses. I'm like, why on earth would you want to go do that?
Do you really want to work? Like, you really want to do that?
So I got to do it. go do it so you can realize how much you hate it.
Yeah, you know what? Whenever you get those guys, go, hey, Jason bought his personal house in September, and they're just now starting. Like, we're just now getting through demo and some framing.
Yeah.
So why don't you go look at that? Now, it's not anybody's fault, right? Like, they're on other jobs, but it's like, why don't you go look at that and tell me, do you really want to flip a house?
Right. And some people, like, no offense to the flipper, because flippers, you can make a lot of money.
You sure can.
Make a lot of money doing it.
I did okay doing flipping houses, right?
You know the drill, but
Yeah.
you know, having contractors that can quickly get in and out of a house, turn it around. I mean, if you don't have those connections, if you don't know how to correctly estimate repairs, I mean, it's going to be rough.
We have an entire submarket. I'm not going to tell you which one right now that they've told us that, okay, for all these permits you guys are pulling for all these projects, it might be up to 2 months before we issue the permits. I'm like, come on. So I'm going to go down Friday. I think it's just their standard email that says, hey, it could be up to 2 months, but it could be like a week, right? Yeah. So I'm going to go down there and figure out what the story is. But there's stuff like that. We're doing a deal up in Spring where we ran into an issue with the airport.
Oh, that's right, because you can't do certain things with.
We had to get approval from the airport and the FAA for how tall these properties were going to be. I've never run into that before. And then we also have to put in certain window types for the noise.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is weird. We've never run into any of this stuff. So you can go buy some property. You think you're going to do really well on it. It may take you a year for all this unforeseen stuff. So
speaking of which, a crazy phone call today. One of the guys I've done some deals with, he calls me and he's like, hey, I'm looking for a contractor to work in a high-rise condo association. So get this. The reason why most contractors won't touch it is because the association has certain hours they'll allow you to use the elevator.
Yep.
And there's certain, like, when
there's noise requirements, all kinds of stuff.
And so these contractors know that there's a select few that actually do this type of work in these types of buildings, and they inflate the repair bid.
Oh yeah.
So you have somebody that's used to doing like a residential house, now you do a condo, and all of a sudden it almost busts the budget.
Yeah.
So he's having a hard time finding work to get done on this thing.
It's not only that, it's the times that they can use the elevator, but then there's a whole like trash issue, right? Like, how do you get the stuff out, the material out of the property, and then you can't dirty up the hallway and all that. I mean, it's a pain.
Right.
I can't imagine guys that do it. It's a total pain.
Yeah. So he's trying to help his friend out on finding somebody, but I was like, I don't know anybody. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's not my thing. Yeah, it's interesting when you chat with these folks. It's like, yeah, I really want to. To go back to your phone call, I really want to go out and flip a couple houses to get the experience. I'm like, oh, you're going to get an experience, all right.
Yeah.
But is it the experience you really want?
Yeah.
Or are you near retirement? Why don't you just put your money to work and just go do retirement stuff?
Yeah. That's one of the questions we usually ask people is, how much capital are you looking to invest? I mean, if you have less than 50, I mean, you can still put it to work, but I mean, you really got to go build more. I mean, to really passively, to enjoy a passive lifestyle.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's really it. Most people are in that stage of accumulating capital, and then there's some people out there that are pretty wealthy, and they just want to just set it, forget it, let somebody else do the work, and then just monitor it.
Yeah.
Is the checks coming in? Is the house still there?
Well, and on the passive side, I mean, don't get me wrong, you're going to get some pretty good pops here, 1350. I mean, the fund could have some spectacular returns because it shares in the appreciation of the asset, right? But when you look at is it going to be 100% rates of return per year? No. Right. I mean, that's just not going to happen. That's not realistic. So, is it a good, nice set and forget 10, 15%? Yeah, it's going to be somewhere in that ballpark. Yeah. And you're not going to and it's going to be diversified amongst a bunch of assets, right? It's not just one property.
Right.
One thing you and I have been talking about, and a couple other guys, the foreclosure auction's been closed since March?
Yeah.
So a lot of these passive investors that bought into notes and some other things, they're not able to, if these deals went south, they're not able to get them back.
Yeah.
So, and they've probably not had payments made for the last year, right? So it's going to be interesting to see when, Quest Trust opens back up and a couple of others of these self-directed IRA companies where they start having meetings again, and you start chatting, with the folks around the water cooler and say, hey, how many notes kind of went bad that were passive deals, right?
Yeah.
I'd love to know what that number is.
Right.
We know some apartment complexes, you guys can believe this, that are on their way to receivership, which is crazy because apartments are great right now, right? But so it's going to be really fascinating to see as the country opens back up and we start getting through this backlog of some of this stuff. Now, does that mean there's a big crash coming and price correction? No, none of that stuff's happening. But if you're lending your money to an apartment syndication and you haven't gotten paid, that's a very real event for you, right? Or you lent your money to a guy that's flipped a house or flipping houses and he hasn't paid you in a year and you can't foreclose. It's like, that's a real event, right?
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how that stuff lines out here in the next year or so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we always talk about the options that we have here at Mr. Texas Real Estate. We have notes, options. We have private lending opportunities. We have syndications. We have multiple. Some in Houston, Corpus Christi is another one that's near completion. We have a fund, which just basically is, it has multiple assets within the fund that cash flow from those assets pays the 9% return back to the investors. So people, and it just really comes down to duration. How long do you want to be into something? Liquidity, which, is always a concern to some folks. But, I mean, we have a flavor for everybody. I mean, really, when you come down to it, just finding out what they really need at this given moment in time. So that's part of what we do is we find out what they need and try to address it. And it's very like non-salesy, solicited approach. We don't, we're going to continue to do this with or without individuals participating.
Yeah, it's not, hey, give us your money, we'll find something to do with it. It's like, hey, here's what we offer. Is any of this sound like something you're interested in? And if you're not, we're totally cool with that. Like, it's totally fine. There's probably a better vehicle for you to invest your money in than our fund or some of the other things we're doing.
Yeah, and like when it comes down to syndications, like my personal appetite to doing that, I never want to be a lead, like a lead sponsor in a deal. I'd rather somebody else that knows what they're doing, it's got that skill set. I'll partner my money next to them.
Yeah.
And so that's what you guys do, and it's great. I'm invested in the fund, so a lot of investors that are coming in, my money's right next to theirs. I always tell them that. So I was like, I get no financial benefit from you doing anything with us.
Yeah.
But I'm with you in the deal.
Yeah. I think that's important too. And folks, hey, you got your money in the deal? Well, yeah, we got a lot of money in a whole lot of these things, right? So we're invested right alongside. And then, of course, we're the ones that are actively involved in turn the deals around, buying them, fixing them up, getting them leased up, all that sort of stuff. So if they're interested in contacting you, what's the best way for them to do it?
If you want to email me, if you don't like to text or talk, you can email me at Brian at brian@mrtxre.com, or my cell phone is 713-620-8148, coming up the 1 minute mark.
Okay. So, just get in touch with Brian. He's got, he does a webinar every Wednesday at 1. You guys can see what we're up to. Do you do the same thing, or do you show different assets? What do you do on that 1 p.m.?
So at first I had a slide deck that I was trying to keep kind of consistent, and it started off pretty vague. We talked about the 3 passive investment classes as private lender, mortgage notes, and syndications as like truly passive.
Yeah.
Right? And then from there, I like to break it down to say, look, if you had interest in syndications, here are some of the things you need to look for within a deal to meet, whatever your criteria would be, rate of return, right? Due diligence factors on the syndicators, what's the asset, like all that stuff. Private lending, how to protect your money through private lending, documents you need to pull on the borrower, the title company, all that stuff, the legal docs. But I change it up.
Yeah.
I mean, whoever's on there, I like to break it open to them and say, hey, do you have any questions we can just knock out right now?
Yeah. What did you guys come here for? Like, what do you really want to know, right?
Yeah. So I'm not a really structured individual. I like to bounce.
Okay. All right. When we get back from break, we'll talk more with Brian Burris, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Welcome back, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Brian's mom just jumped on Facebook and made a comment there. She said, my son is a good investor. I don't have the comments pulled up, but mom gives you a strong endorsement because you're putting some of mom's money to work in some deals, right?
Yes, she lends. She likes the. It's funny. I always tell this story about my mom.
Okay.
And now that she's listening, she knows this. But so I told you the story. So she was going to do her very first note with me.
Okay.
Right. And I was kind of telling her how it goes. But whenever it came down to the actual day we have to close and fund and wire the money, I drove out to her house and I said, Mom, I'm on my way. Well, I caught her kind of at a bad time. And she was like, okay. I didn't know we had to meet right now, but meet me at the house. So I continue my drive. But I was on the phone and I thought she hung up, but she thought I hung up, but she left her phone on.
Yeah.
And so the entire drive, she's basically talking to herself in her car about like, I told him I couldn't be home at this, and if I lose this money, this is like he's got plenty of stuff he can help himself with, but like she's like, I'm worried about this, and so she pulls into the driveway, and of course my mom is always sweet. She goes, oh hey honey, she hugs me. I go, you realize I heard everything you just said
Mom?
on the phone. And she's like, she felt embarrassed.
Yeah.
But like fast forward, she's probably done 5 or 6 notes now.
Yeah.
And it's probably the biggest portion of her monthly income that supports her Social Security.
Yeah.
So now she shares this with all her friends who are always kind of like, well, some of them are a little negative. How's that thing going?
Yeah, the thing, right? The thing.
Yeah, and she's like, it's going great. Can you believe it? And no one can believe that people are paying 9-10% interest, but they don't understand the loan.
Right.
This is not a long-term note. This is
it's a short-term loan. So we borrow money from folks like Mama Burr, who we pay 9-10% to, and that's a short-term loan, typically less than 2 years.
Yeah.
So we're buying it, then we're refinancing, we're fixing the property up, and then we refi it, and then put the money to work in another deal. So Mama Burr gives you a strong endorsement.
big fan, Mom.
Big fan. No bias at all.
That's right.
No bias here. So, any case, just buying real estate, and there's 2 players typically in each one of these deals. There's somebody who's going out and doing the work and finding the deal, and there's somebody who's funding it.
Yeah.
And the folks who fund it are typically passive investors. They're looking to expose their net worth to real estate, and it's a great way to do that without having to go look at roach and flea infested apartments.
Right.
When you can say, hey, why don't you guys go do that and call me when it's done and pretty, and I'll come out and look at it.
Right. Yes. And I mean, that's what's, it's funny because when people don't have experience with doing what we do, I started doing investing into syndications just so I could learn how to read a balance sheet and a profit and loss statement, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of understood it, but when you actually get one of these back, either quarterly or annually, you really have to like figure out the flow of the money.
Right. Yeah.
And I started doing, I use cash from my passive notes to spin off and do with syndications. And so I love the fact that every quarter I have basically a slew of either multifamily units or commercial. I have some retail commercial stuff, and I get paid on it, and I'm involved in that deal. I can go to that little subset. I can have a sandwich there, get my tires changed at that place to support the the people that are leasing it. But and it educates me in a whole different format than just like say the notes and the lending side. So that's why I do it.
Yeah.
And but I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, I think people's belief is you drive down the street and you see all these, like this building's a good example, right? You see all these different office buildings and you think there's some big bank that's lending all the money to do it. And it's not really true. There's a lot of these. It's investors like me and you that are putting a couple $100,000 a time into an apartment, into an office building, into a self-storage. And they get in some cases, they get a preferred rate of return, 8, 9, 10% plus some equity, or it could be like our corporate syndications, 100% equity.
Right.
It's a 100% equity play. So we're doing and it's all cash,
right?
100% cash, 100% equity, and there's cash flow and some other stuff. But anyways, so there's a handful of ways that you can structure these things, but they're all designed to do one thing, and that's to go in and buy an asset, fix it up, make it cash flow, and make it worth more than when you bought it, and then sell it or refinance it and move on to the next one.
Yeah. That's the basic play. I mean, a lot of people, you're either going to buy something that's stabilized or you're going to buy something that needs work. And usually the best plays as far as equity and overall return is going to be in those appreciation plays, those value, those deep value, where nobody else touched it and you came in to save it.
Yeah, and that's mostly what we buy.
Right.
Stuff that is quite literally destroyed.
Right.
We then go in and buy it. And you can see it. There's a reason our construction company is so big. We go in and, buy stuff that's just falling in. I've walked into some properties. The inner loop syndication is the most fun one for me because I walked into that South Loop property and I'm looking around and I'm like, I can't tell where one apartment starts and the other one ends.
Yeah.
Like it was that much of a mess. I mean, it just absolutely destroyed. So you go in and look at a deal like that, and we bought it for such a discount. It's like, this is going to be great. It's going to take a ton of work, but nobody else is going to buy that thing.
Right. Yeah,
it just needs that much work.
You saved an ex-member of another real estate organization. So you stepped in, you helped her. She took a haircut, but that was understandable. She just wanted it out. And you came in and you turned the property is going to be awesome. You're going to raise rents, change the whole value of that corner.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. We bought that from somebody who was a mentee. She was being coached or mentored by one of the largest apartment gurus kind of in the country. Right. And unfortunately, they made some decisions that didn't really work out for them. We ended up buying the property from like, hey, look, just sell this thing to us, and you're going to have to take a little bit of a haircut, but we're going to turn this thing around. So wouldn't surprise me if they show up to the grand opening when we finally get to that point. But a really great property in a neighborhood we think is turning around. It's technically inside the loop, which is kind of crazy.
Area's nice.
Actually, I think all of them are inside the loop for the inner loop, aren't they? Yeah, they all are. Yeah. But turning those neighborhoods around. Then Corpus Christi is the same way. We're literally buying an entire neighborhood. Yeah. Just picking and choosing assets right around there. Like we went in and we literally go in and buy the worst ones. Yeah. When someone says, "Oh, there was a shooting and that house is full of drug dealers," we're like, "We want that one."
Yeah. That's opportunity.
That's opportunity. I'm like, I want the sixplex that has a whole clandestine black market going on, right? It's like it's drugs and women and all that other nonsense. Like that's the one I want because I know it's the worst one in the neighborhood, right? And then we're gonna go in and kick everybody out, rehab it, put up big fences around it. That's kind of the joke. Is like when we buy something, we put huge fences around it. Yeah. And then everyone starts looking around the neighborhood, going, "Oh, things are changing here. We're gonna have to go on down the street."
Yeah. You want to hear some crazy stories. So my friend Tommy shot me a Houston Chronicle article, and it was talking about in Third Ward that the kind of like, there's a lot of renovations that are going on right now. And so the tagline was the gentrification of Third Ward, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the guys that we are friends with, that we invest with, his name's Ehab, and he's got a YouTube channel called Rehab with Ehab, right? It's a nice guy. So I reached out to him and I said, "Hey," I was like, "You're in the Houston Chronicle. It shows like the apartment complex that he purchased and that he's renovating it." And so some of the tenants reached out and said like they have like they're not happy with what's going on. He's got to move them out and then renovate it. So I text him and he's like, he actually got a personal phone call from Sheila Jackson Lee.
Really?
About the situation.
The situation.
And so he goes, I stood my ground. I was respectful to her, but I said, "Look, anybody could have done this. Anybody could have purchased this and renovated it and changed the whole value of the neighborhood." And I was like, good for you, man. I was like, you're kicking butt. That's going to be beautiful. I've seen kind of the renovation around where I live. So, it's really interesting.
The problem with some of these properties is you've got to remove those old tenants. But the other problem is like people should not be living this way. I think that's another thing that a lot of folks miss. They're like, "Oh, the neighborhood is, it's being gentrified. It's being brought up to, and it's pushing certain groups out." And I'm like, "Yeah, but do you know what that property looked like before?" Right? They're disgusting, right? They're destroyed. Right. Yeah. It's they're
not up to code.
They're not up to code. The electrical is a mess. The plumbing is a mess. They're just in really poor condition. Yeah. And it's like, well, what do we do with the tenant that needs $600 a month rent? I'm like, I don't know, but they shouldn't be living here. Right. So, all right, when we get back from the break, we'll talk more about passive investing with Brian Burris, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Yeah. Jason Bible, Brian Burr. We're talking about
money and hot tubs.
Talking about money. I will do the hot tub networking event someday. I still have that one on the...
Dude, hey, Rock, if you could get us in a hot tub on the format on the...
for the next show, we could do, get the guys from Hot Tub Time Machine and put it behind us.
That'd be awesome.
I wasn't joking when I put that up about hot tub networking. I'm going to do it at some point.
It's a great idea.
But it's going to be a different mix than our normal real estate events. It's not going to be all dudes and one gal, right? If you've ever been to a real estate networking event, that's about what it is. It's like 10 to 1, right? And you're like, where did all these dudes come from? Anyways, so when it works, so sometimes when your spa is hooked up to the app isn't connected to the...
So it has
it the Wi-Fi?
An antenna, right? So when your Wi-Fi is connected, I guess it's a receiver that allows you to like turn it on. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes if there's an outage or something like that where your Wi-Fi is down, like your app will still tell you it's connecting, like as if the spa is coming on, and so the green light will go green, and then like you think it's getting warm, and then I jump. You go out there all excited,
jump in, and you're like, "Whoa!"
So
surprise!
Like, that's the only downside, but I mean, 90% of the time it works.
It works. Yeah. Okay. So what's funny is when I was chatting with I'm using the same pool guy you have, right? And we got to redo the electrical because we want all the electrical to go into the same panel box. And then I'm like, oh, we would probably want all the landscaping lights to go into the same thing. So I'm starting to realize, I'm like, oh, well, there was really no choice. Like we were going to have to redo everything on this pool anyway, just because the automation alone. And so it's interesting. I've sent him a survey. We're redoing all kinds of stuff back there. It's gonna be pretty awesome when we get done with it. But so yeah, pretty excited. But yeah, I can just imagine fighting over the temperature of the pool. That's what I'm envisioning right now.
So you doing a heated pool?
Oh yeah, we're gonna be able to heat the pool too.
Okay, yeah, you have something I don't have. Mine's just the hot tub is heated.
Oh man, I'm doing the whole thing. I'm
whole
gonna be
thing?
able to heat. My last house I was able to heat the pool. Now it takes like
gonna take a
5 hours or something, 6 hours. But dude, I'll tell you my favorite time of year to swim is when and this only happens like once every couple of years. Although it might happen next week. I love swimming when there's snow. Because you turn the heater on everything all the way up, and you're like, this is so cool.
It's nice.
Right?
You see the steam coming off the water.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then you can leave your drinks outside the pool, and they stay cold. It's like, this is the perfect. Now, of course, when you get out of that pool or that hot tub, it is a fast run to the inside of the house, right? I mean, you're high knees to get in there pretty quick. But anyway, so
you got $1,000 gas bill too. So
yeah, that's right. That's about what it is. A couple of G's just for the gas. Well, that's the joke. Is we're building this house hopefully to be zero energy. So we're working on what that actually looks like. But yeah, it's not inexpensive. Well, you know what the deal is. You got to buy the newest heater. So once you get those high end heaters, they're a lot more efficient than they used to be. I had to replace a heater on a house, and the old heater. In fact, at this house, the old heater is like twice the size of that mini fridge over there.
Oh yeah.
And then the new one is like a third of the size of that thing. They're small and they're quiet, and you sit there and look at it and you go, that's going to be able to heat up, 60,000 gallons or 50,000 gallons. Like, okay. And then sure enough, I mean, it's, pool's 90 degrees or 87 or whatever it is.
Yeah. I got to ask Tommy see if his pool was heated. I don't know if he actually opted for that. So maybe he did, maybe he didn't.
They can just put in a bigger heater. That's all they do.
Really?
Your heater ought to be big enough.
I don't know, man. I went cheap. I went basic.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Now I'll tell you the guys that are really balling out of control with the cooler.
With the what?
A cooler. You can get a cooler for a pool.
Like where it's what? Like
it's an air conditioner for the pool. It runs like a heater, but like the water runs through it, but it cools the water off.
Okay. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's a new thing. Like a couple of years, I guess they started doing it the last 5 or 7 years.
Yeah.
Like $5 or $6 grand, and I'm like, what kind of electricity bill? Like air conditioning your house is one here in Texas. What about your pool in August?
Yeah.
I can only imagine. And then I'm chatting with a bunch of folks, and they're like, "Why would you want to air condition the? Why'd you want to cool down the water?" I'm like, "Because nobody likes it when it's 90 degrees." And they're like, "Oh yeah, but we like it." And I'm like, "Okay, never mind."
Yeah. If you can have especially in the hot summers, like where the water, if it starts getting really hot, you got to have, like we talked about, a light plastered as opposed to a dark plaster.
Yeah. You got to go with the light plastering, like white. And I think that's what I may end up going with is like super Arctic white, right?
Yeah.
So it's, the one thing I always find funny is the guys that do like greens, they'll put like a green tint. I'm like, you know how much money we spend to make sure our pools don't look green? And then you're going to give it like this kind of bluish green tint. I'm like, I want that thing either clear, white, or like a bright blue.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Tropical is the look.
Yes.
Yeah, not like algae green. Like that's the natural color.
Yeah, that's right. Look at this beautiful pool, and the frogs are sitting there. They're like, "This is great, isn't it?"
This is awesome.
So, in any case, I've not had any dead animals since the possum.
That's good.
So the frog logs are working. Have you had to put frog logs in your pool yet?
No.
Okay, so if you guys don't know what a frog log is, it's a little log that sits partly floating in the pool, and then the other, it's got a little bridge that then goes to the side of the pool. So I had I swear it was like a 30-pound possum that drowned in our pool. So anyways, you got a pool. It's called a frog log.
Did you bury the possum?
I didn't. Yeah, I let the pool guy handle it. And what's funny is my pool guy's on Facebook.
Yeah.
And so I posted that picture with that. The drain was the size of my head. Like that's how big, and the possum was at least 2 or 3 times. It was like a small dog. Yeah. And it's funny. My pool guy goes, "That'll be fun to fish out tomorrow." I was like, "Good luck, buddy."
Good luck. Knock it out.
Have fun with that one. So in any case, passive investing is kind of like having a heated pool.
We like to tie these things
tie it
together.
all together.
Yeah.
How it's like a heated pool, I'm not quite sure.
We get off track so easily, but it all ties in. We all try to bring a running theme.
That's
pools
right.
Pools to making money, they cost money.
It's all real estate. Yeah, it's all real. If you want to be able to pay to heat your pool daily, you probably need to be a passive investor.
Perfect
Is
segue.
that a good segue right there?
Great.
So invest your money so you can heat your pool during the winter.
That's right. Don't go out and hustle for your pool. Let the passive investing work.
It's like having a solar panel up there.
Right.
I don't know how that works, but anyway, so passive investing is the way to go. If they want to get in touch with you, want to get on that 1:00 webinar, Give them your contact info.
Email is Brian, is BRIAN at MRTXRE.com. Cell phone is 713-620-8148. 713-620-8148. Happy to help you in anything you have. And I always just try to, give them suggestions, not necessarily tell them, one way or another what's right or wrong.
Yeah.
But just try to help them with what their situation is.
Yeah, it's like, hey, this is what we're trying to, what are you trying to accomplish? And maybe we've got something that'll work for you. And if it doesn't, that's totally cool. Like, we completely recognize that syndications and our fund and everything are not best for everybody, but they make sense for a lot of folks.
Right. And the good news, we never really try to come across, or at least I don't, like as far as like the authority on any subject. I say, look, I've made 1,000 mistakes, but like things that have worked for me are fall into these three categories, and it's what's allowed us to, work together, how I live my life, and it's how we live our lives. It's been great, and so. Yeah, I would just wish I would have discovered it sooner instead of, messing with the market for so long. So
yeah, you ought to tell that story sometime about just getting shellacked in the market, right? Everybody does at some point, right? You get burned, and then you're like, okay, hold on, I don't want to do this anymore. Maybe there's a better way to make money than doing this. Yeah. So, or if if you're looking at the market right now and you're thinking it's a little overheated, you're like, well, maybe I need to put some money into something that gives me a little bit more of a. I don't want to say it's less risky, because all this stuff is risky. I mean, let's be honest. All this stuff's risky. But if you want to say, hey, maybe I want to expose some of my net worth to real estate, this is a good way to do it without taking on a second job of flipping houses or being a landlord.
Yeah, and securing it to something, for crying out loud.
Oh, yeah.
Collateralizing.
Yeah.
Like common sense, it sounds like.
I watched this Bitcoin thing, and of course, we watched the whole Blockbuster debacle last week, right? And those shares aren't worth anything. When you really get down to it, they're worth nothing.
Right.
At least this stuff is all tied to real estate, right? It's tied to, you're not investing in a business. You're not buying shares in, some random company. All this stuff's, all the values derived from the underlying real estate. So, all right, give me your contact info one more time.
Cell phone, guys, 713-620-8148. Just don't call me after 9 o'clock. I go to bed early.
Yeah, he's an early riser, early bed. All right, we'll see you guys later.
Thanks a lot.